There are moments in life when we wonder, is God really working for me? We face obstacles, delays, and disappointments, and it's easy to think, maybe He's forgotten about me. But let me remind you, God is always working behind the scenes. Even when you don't see it, He's orchestrating things in your favor. Today, I want to share with you 7 signs that God is helping you, even when you don't realize it. Sometimes in life, we face closed doors, opportunities that seem perfect, relationships that felt right, jobs that we thought were meant for us, only to find them slipping away. It can be frustrating, even heartbreaking, to see something you deeply desired fall apart. You may ask, why did this happen? Or did I do something wrong? But what if I told you that the closed door wasn't a punishment, but a sign that God is protecting you? What looks like rejection is often divine redirection. God sees what we cannot see, and He knows when something isn't right for us, even when we think it is. Think about a time when you wanted something so badly, only for it to not work out. Maybe you prayed for a job, prepared for it, and gave your best effort, but in the end they picked someone else. You felt disappointed, wondering why you weren't chosen. But then months later you heard that the company went through layoffs, or the work environment was toxic. Suddenly you realized that what seemed like a setback was actually God saving you from something that wasn't meant for you. When one door closes, it's not a sign of failure. It's a sign that God has something better. God doesn't just see your present, He sees your future. He knows the traps that the enemy has set ahead of you. He knows the relationships that will drain you, the opportunities that will lead you away from your purpose, and the distractions that will keep you from your destiny. That's why He sometimes blocks your path. You may not understand it now, but if you trust Him, you'll see that every closed door was a blessing in disguise. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Start saying, God, I trust that you are leading me to something greater. We have to remember that sometimes what we want is not what's best for us. Maybe you prayed for a relationship to work out only for it to end. You thought that person was the one, but God saw things you couldn't see. He knew that if you stayed in that relationship, it would have led to heartbreak, or it would have kept you from meeting the person He truly prepared for you. So instead of mourning over what didn't work out, start praising God for the closed doors. Because every no from man is a setup for a yes from God. Look at it this way. If you were about to walk into a building and saw a "Do not enter" sign on the door, you wouldn't get mad, you'd be grateful. That sign is there for your protection. Maybe there's construction inside, maybe the floor is unsafe, or maybe there's danger ahead. You wouldn't argue with the sign, you trust that it's there for a reason. It's the same way with God. For when He closes a door, it's His way of protecting you from something you cannot see, but He knows it's not right for you. So the next time a door closes in your life, don't get discouraged. Don't let disappointment take over your heart. Instead say, God, I know you have something better for me. I trust your plan more than my own desires. When you walk with that kind of faith, you'll realize that every closed door is not a loss. It's a setup for a greater blessing that's just around the corner. Life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges our way. There are times when everything seems to be going wrong. Bills are piling up, relationships are struggling, your health is under attack, or your dreams feel out of reach. Naturally, you should feel anxious, worried, or even overwhelmed, but instead, you find yourself feeling calm. Deep inside, you have an unexplainable peace, a quiet confidence that somehow, some way, everything is going to be okay. That peace is not from you, it's from God. It's a sign that He is with you, guiding you, covering you, and working behind the scenes on your behalf. The Bible says in Philippians 4:7 that God gives us a peace that surpasses all understanding. That means it doesn't make sense in the natural. People around you may wonder, how are you staying so calm when everything is falling apart? It's because your peace is not based on the circumstances around you. It's based on the presence of God within you. His peace is like an anchor that holds you steady even in the strongest storms. When you have that kind of peace, you don't have to fear the future because you know who holds your future. Think about a time when you faced a challenge that should have shaken you. Maybe you lost a job, went through a painful breakup, or received bad news. You thought you would fall apart, but somehow you didn't. You felt strength rise up in you that you couldn't explain. That wasn't by accident. That was God holding you up. He was whispering, I am with you. I will never leave you. That peace in the middle of the storm was a sign that he was actively working in your life, making a way where there seemed to be no way. Look at the story of Jesus and his disciples on the boat during the storm. The wind was raging, the waves were crashing, and the disciples were panicking. But what was Jesus doing? He was sleeping. He wasn't worried, he wasn't afraid, because he knew that no storm was greater than the power of God. The same is true for you. When God is in your boat, you don't have to fear the waves. When you have his peace, you can rest even in the middle of the storm, knowing that he is in control. Sometimes people will misunderstand your peace. They'll think you're being careless, that you should be more worried. But what they don't realize is that your peace is not based on what you see. It's based on who you trust. You know that even when you don't understand what's happening, God is still working. You know that even when things don't go according to your plan, his plan is still unfolding. That's why you can walk through the fire and not be burned, why you can face difficulties and not be shaken. So if you're going through a challenge right now and still feel an unexplainable peace, take it as a sign. God is helping you. He's strengthening you, guiding you, and leading you through the storm. You don't have to know how it's all going to work out. You just have to know who is in control. Keep trusting him, and that peace will carry you through to the other side of victory. Have you ever met someone who showed up in your life exactly when you needed them? Maybe you were feeling discouraged and a friend called out of nowhere with the perfect words to lift you up. Maybe you were searching for an opportunity and suddenly someone introduced you to the right person. That wasn't luck, and it wasn't a coincidence. That was God's divine connection. When God is helping you, he will send the right people at the right time to encourage you, guide you, and open doors you couldn't open on your own. God places people in our lives as part of his plan. Just like he sent Jonathan to encourage David, just like he sent Ruth to stay with Naomi, he will send people to stand by your side when you need them the most. Sometimes these people show up as mentors who guide us, friends who support us, or even strangers who speak a word of encouragement that changes our perspective. You may not even realize it in the moment, but later you'll look back and say, that was God. He knew exactly what I needed, and he sent the right person at the perfect time. On the other hand, God will also remove the wrong people from your life. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your destiny. Some people may have been good for a season, but if they stay too long, they can become a distraction or even a hindrance to what God wants to do in your life. When someone walks away, don't chase after them. Trust that God is making room for the right people. If they were meant to be part of your future, they wouldn't have left. Sometimes their departure is God's way of protecting you and preparing you for something better. Think about how Joseph was in prison, forgotten and overlooked. But then in one moment, God used the cupbearer to mention Joseph's name to Pharaoh. And just like that, he went from the prison to the palace. That's how quickly God can work. He will put your name in the right person's heart. He will cause the right people to notice you. He will bring divine connections that accelerate your destiny in ways you never imagined. When it's time for you to step into a new season, God will send the right people to help you get there. One of the most powerful ways God works in our lives is through relationships. That's why we must be open to the people he sends, even if they don't come in the package we expect. Sometimes the person who blesses you won't look like what you imagined. They may not have the background, the status, or the experience you thought they would, but if God sent them, they are exactly who you need. Don't miss a divine connection just because it doesn't look the way you expected. So if you've been feeling stuck or uncertain, ask God to bring the right people into your life. Ask him to remove those who are not meant for you and to align you with those who will push you toward your destiny. And when those divine connections show up, recognize them for what they are. A sign that God is helping you. He is working behind the scenes, placing the right people in your path so that you can step into the amazing future he has planned for you. We've all been there, waiting for something to happen, praying for a breakthrough, and feeling like nothing is moving. The job interview went well, but they never called back. The business idea was promising, but the deal fell through. You thought you'd be further along by now, but it feels like life has hit pause. In these moments, it's easy to get discouraged, to think maybe it's not meant to be. But let me remind you, delays are not denials. Sometimes what looks like a setback is actually a divine set up for something greater. God's timing is not our timing. We live in a world that wants everything fast, instant success, immediate results. But God operates on a different schedule. When he makes us wait, it's not because he's forgotten us. It's because he's preparing us. You may not see it now, but every delay is serving a purpose. Maybe he's refining your character, strengthening your faith, or positioning the right people in place before he opens the door. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. God's delays are strategic. Think about Joseph. He had a dream that he would be a leader, but before that dream came to pass, he was betrayed, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison. For years, it seemed like things were going in the opposite direction. But what Joseph didn't know was that every delay, every setback was actually setting him up for his destiny. If he had gone straight from the dream to the palace, he wouldn't have been ready. But because he endured the waiting season, when the time came, he stepped into his purpose with wisdom, strength, and the favor of God. Some of you are in a season of delay right now, and you don't understand why. You've been faithful, you've prayed, you've done your part, but the door hasn't opened. Let me encourage you, God is working behind the scenes. You may not see it, but pieces are coming together. The right connections are forming. The right timing is being arranged. If God gave you everything too soon, you wouldn't be able to handle it. But when the time is right, what took years to prepare can happen in an instant. Have you ever been stuck in traffic, frustrated because you're running late, only to find out later that there was an accident on the road ahead? That delay wasn't a punishment. It was protection. The same is true in life. Sometimes God slows you down to protect you from something you can't see. If the relationship didn't work out, it's because he has someone better. If the job didn't come through, it's because he's preparing something greater. Every delay is for your good. So if you're facing a delay or a setback, don't lose heart. It's not over. The enemy wants you to give up, to think that God has abandoned you. But what you don't realize is that your biggest frustration might be setting you up for your biggest breakthrough. Trust in God's perfect timing. When he's ready, doors will open, opportunities will come, and everything will fall into place exactly as he planned. Have you ever had a thought, a dream, or an idea that just wouldn't go away? No matter how much you try to push it aside, it keeps coming back. Maybe it's a business idea, a career change, a ministry you feel called to start, or a decision you've been wrestling with. You hear sermons, read scriptures, or have random conversations, and somehow the same message keeps showing up. That's not a coincidence. That's God speaking to you. When God is helping you, he will give you nudges, signs, and confirmations to lead you in the right direction. God speaks in different ways. Sometimes it's through his word. A verse jumps off the page and speaks directly to your situation. Other times it's through people. Someone gives you encouragement or advice without even knowing what you've been praying about. Maybe it's through circumstances. Doors start opening in one direction while closing in another. When you keep seeing and hearing the same message over and over, pay attention. God is trying to tell you something. Think about Moses. When God called him to lead the Israelites, Moses doubted himself. He asked for signs, and God gave them. The burning bush wasn't a normal event. It was a divine confirmation. God was showing Moses, this is me. I am the one calling you. In the same way, when God is trying to lead you, he will make sure you don't miss it. He'll keep bringing it up through different sources until you recognize it's not just your thoughts, it's his direction. Sometimes we ignore God's nudges because we feel unqualified or afraid of change. We think, what if I fail? What if I'm not ready? But God wouldn't keep putting it in your heart if he hadn't already equipped you for it. If he calls you to it, he will prepare you for it. Don't let fear talk you out of what faith is leading you into. If the confirmations keep showing up, it's time to take a step of faith and trust that God knows what he's doing. Maybe you've been asking God for a sign, but the truth is he's already given you several. That idea that won't leave you, that dream that keeps stirring in your heart, those random confirmations you keep encountering, that's God guiding you. He's saying, step out. Trust me, I've already gone ahead of you. You don't have to figure out every detail. Just be obedient to the next step he's showing you. So if you keep receiving nudges, confirmations, and signs pointing you in a certain direction, don't ignore them. That's God helping you. He's showing you where to go, what to pursue, and what to prepare for. Pay attention, trust His voice, and step forward in faith, because He's leading you into something greater than you can imagine. Have you ever looked back at a tough season in your life and wondered, how did I make it through that? The heartbreak, the sickness, the financial struggle, the loss. You should have given up. You should have broken down, but somehow you kept going. Somehow you found the strength to wake up, to push forward, to keep believing. That wasn't just your own strength. That was God's supernatural strength working through you. When God is helping you, He gives you power beyond your natural ability. The Bible says in Isaiah 40:31, those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. That means when you feel weak, when you feel like you can't take another step, God gives you new strength. He breathes fresh energy into your spirit, giving you the ability to endure things that would break others. People may look at you and say, I don't know how you're still standing, but you know the secret. It's not you. It's God within you. Think about David when he faced Goliath. In the natural, he had no chance. He was young, inexperienced, and armed with only a slingshot. But what others didn't see was that God's power was on him. That's why David was able to take down a giant that warriors were too afraid to fight. The same is true for you. What you're up against may look impossible, but God's strength is greater than any obstacle. When you rely on Him, you will accomplish things that don't make sense in the natural. Many times we feel weak because we're trying to do everything in our own strength. We think, I have to figure this out. I have to carry this burden. But the truth is, you don't have to do it alone. God never intended for you to fight your battles by yourself. That's why He said, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Corinthians 12:9. The moment you feel like giving up is the moment God steps in and says, let me carry you. Let me give you my strength. Maybe right now you feel tired. You've been pushing, believing, standing in faith, but the battle feels long. Let me encourage you. God sees you. He knows the weight you've been carrying, and He's about to renew your strength. You're not going to break under the pressure. You're not going to be defeated. What tried to stop you is only making you stronger. God is filling you with supernatural endurance to keep going when others would quit. So when you feel weak, don't let discouragement take over. That's when God's power is strongest in your life. He is holding you up, sustaining you, and giving you the grace to keep moving forward. If you've made it this far, you're going to make it all the way. You have strength beyond your own ability because the God who created the universe is fighting for you. Have you ever had an opportunity come out of nowhere? A job offer, a financial blessing, a relationship that changed everything, something that you didn't plan, but it fell into place at just the right time? That wasn't a coincidence. That was God opening a door that you couldn't open on your own. When God is helping you, He will supernaturally move things into place, aligning people, resources, and opportunities in ways you never expected. In Revelation 3:8, God says, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. That means when God decides to bless you, no person, no circumstance, no opposition can stop it. It doesn't matter if others try to block you, if you don't have the qualifications, or if you don't see a way. When God says the door is open, it's open. You don't have to force it, manipulate it, or stress about it. God will make it happen in His perfect timing. Think about Esther. She was just an ordinary Jewish girl, but God opened a door for her to become queen. It wasn't because of her background, her connections, or her qualifications. It was because of God's favor. The same thing happened with Joseph. He went from the prison to the palace overnight because God opened the right door at the right time. That's what God can do for you. One opportunity, one phone call, one divine connection can change everything. The problem is sometimes we try to force open doors that aren't meant for us. We push, we struggle, we try to make things happen in our own strength, but nothing works. That's because God's best doors don't require forcing. If you have to beg for it, chase after it, or constantly fight to hold on to it, it may not be the door God has for you. But when it's from God, it will feel right. It will come with peace. It will open naturally because it's part of His plan for your life. Maybe you've been waiting for a door to open and it feels like nothing is happening. Let me encourage you. God has not forgotten you. Behind the scenes, He is aligning the right people, the right moments, and the right timing. If you keep trusting Him, you will walk into blessings that you didn't even see coming. You'll look back and say, I don't know how this happened, but I know it was God. So if a door has opened unexpectedly, recognize it for what it is, a sign that God is helping you. If a door has closed, don't be discouraged. It just means God has something better on the way. Keep trusting, keep believing, and stay faithful, because the doors that God opens are always greater than anything you could ever open on your own. My friend, if you've seen these signs in your life, if you've experienced delays that turned into breakthroughs, if the right people have shown up at the right time, if doors have opened that you could never have opened on your own, know that God is working in your favor. You are not alone, and you are not forgotten. Even in the moments when you don't understand, even when the road seems uncertain, God is guiding you, strengthening you, and leading you towards something greater. Don't let discouragement steal your faith. Don't let doubt convince you that God isn't moving. He is. Right now, behind the scenes, He is aligning the right opportunities, the right people, and the right timing to fulfill His purpose for your life. What you're facing today is not the end. It's a setup for your next victory. So stand strong, keep believing, keep trusting, because the God who started a good work in you is faithful to complete it. Philippians 1:6. The best is yet to come, and your greatest blessings are on their way. God is helping you get ready for what He's about to do.